Hey everyone, it's Kirsten. I almost did not come out today because it's freaking hot in Texas. But I love being in nature, so I'm happy to be here. Okay, today we're going to be talking about pieces to the beginning of awakening. And this is based off of my personal experience. So first, it's going to be identifying emotions within me. So this is recognizing that there is no certain outcome ever in anything. No certain outcome. So you do not have to live in fear about potential outcome, because you have the power to change any outcome. So you can, when you recognize that you have the ability to participate and take the reins and impact the outcome in a more positive way that benefits yourself and others. So you can begin playing with participating, being present, and actively participating in your life more. Observing outcomes that bring more peace, happiness, and courage. So just making the effort each day to identify when you did have an opportunity to recognize how you were potentially going to impulsively react and how you instead chose to pause and react a different way that led to more peace, happiness, courage in the ability to take the reins and be in the driver's seat of your life. And you can tell yourself, wow, I participated in that. That was so cool. And it empowers you. Number two, so that was identifying emotions within me. Number two is digging deeper within yourself. So this is kind of a two-parter. Coupled with that is consuming growth content. So on the digging deeper within yourself piece, that's exploring, releasing thoughts and emotions. Journaling can come into play here. And then consuming growth content, if your mind and emotions are fragile, potentially too fragile to leave alone, unattended, they might be taking you down unhealthy paths. If you're in a situation where your mind or emotions are not something that's taking you in a favorable direction, then that's a piece of this healing growth process, is consuming growth content, not leaving yourself alone with your thoughts, actively, proactively participating in consuming social media, YouTube, Audible, anything that is spiritual growth aligned with topics that you're interested in. So I have some examples of both of these, and we'll be getting into my examples of my journaling. I just want to say that, so regarding journaling and exploring what's within you, there's the piece where you're actively journaling, where you have a pen and paper and you're allowing stuff and encouraging stuff to come out of you. And then there's just sitting in silence. Sitting in silence can be nerve-wracking or scary, no fun. So I just found it really interesting. I brought a lot of my old journals so we could reference them. So, as you recall, I got sober January 2019, and so I found this really interesting. This was dated May 5th, 2019, so that's about 4 months later, and I say here, tonight for the first time I found myself in a window of silence with my thoughts between this YouTuber that I would listen to a lot, and so with my thoughts between listening to her and starting... Okay. It also might be sitting in ants. Shit. Okay. I'm gonna try to be on my knees. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, I might have to move. Okay. Thoughts between watching this YouTuber and starting my daily draw card work. So basically 2 spiritual activities I used to do all the time. So it was like this silence between those 2 activities, maybe 10 minutes of silence while I was finishing my coffee in the morning. I found myself acknowledging the silence and my thoughts and getting excited, feeling like, ooh, this is juicy. And all the above thoughts immediately whooshed in, hence why I shared this just now. So again, this is just an example of me taking a second to find something interesting going on within me and choosing to bust out some paper and pen and take note of that for myself, because we're practicing getting to know ourselves. Okay. So actively practicing being proactive versus reactive. This is new to, yeah, okay. So, I have a little participation thing. If you guys can comment below, and either you can put a 1 if you're actively practicing being proactive versus reactive. So if you're already actively making the effort to be like, wait, like before you impulsively react, and be like, if it was potentially going to lead to like, you know, something negative or down, wait, what's really going on here? And steering yourself a higher vibe direction. If that's something you actively are doing right now versus being reactive, put a 1 in the comments. If all this sort of talk is new to you, but you're vibing with it and you're curious about it, put a 2 in the comments. If you want to be really bold, you could give an example of how you are actively participating. It could be in your own life, participating in your own life. Actively participating in your own life versus impulsive reactions. What's an example of how you're actively participating in your own life? It could be as simple as you are finding yourself potentially going in a downward doubt, fear spiral, and you decide to pull up, like, quickly open a YouTube of some spiritual growth content in some sort of way, some sort of positive content, or some Audible book, and start actively playing that. So that's you actively participating and taking yourself into a higher vibe direction. So if you want to give an example of that, number 3. You could put a number 3 and give your example in the comments. Regarding consuming growth, spiritual growth, whatever, high vibe content, if your mind and emotions, like I said already, are too fragile to leave alone, one resource I used in the very, 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 very beginning of my journey was Pema Chodron. P as in Potter, EMACHODRON. I would look up her YouTube videos and listen to her content. I would say one time when I experienced the most darkest phase of, I think that was true depression. That was like 3 to 4 years ago. I stumbled across her and she literally saved my life. I would not leave myself alone with my thoughts in that chapter of my life. It was about 3 weeks, and I would just constantly binge watch her. So Pema Chodron, amazing life-saving resource. And then the podcast, this is kind of old school. This has been out. Old school, I don't know what old school is. But when I first started listening to this was like 3 years ago. It's called The One You Feed. So that's a podcast. FYI. It's inspired by the parable of the 2 wolves we each have inside us. So I'm going to tell you the parable. So there was a grandfather talking to his grandson, and he was like, "Grandson, within us we each have 2 wolves inside us. One of them represents good things like kindness, bravery, and love, and the other one represents bad things like greed and hatred and fear. And they're always at battle." And the grandson says to the grandfather, "But Grandpa, which one wins?" And the grandfather says, the one you feed. So, and this podcast, every episode, it starts off. So I'd like to start off this podcast episode with asking whoever the person they're interviewing, what that parable means to you in your life and in your work, something like that. So it's a really interesting diving deep real quick into some deep topics at the beginning of every episode. I'm like sweating, guys. Oh my gosh. So I personally recommend like scrolling all the way to the earlier episodes of that podcast and checking those out first. But I mean, hey, everyone is their own person. If a different title calls out to you before getting to those earlier episodes as you're scrolling, by all means, please check it out. The other resource I would like to suggest is Gina Brogan. That's Gina, B as in boy, Rogan. She is on YouTube, and her as well. She's probably had a YouTube presence for about 4 years. So I suggest going to the earlier episodes, starting from the beginning with her, so you can get a vibe of her whole journey. Okay. So, regarding journaling, there is no wrong or right way to journal. You don't discover your inner self overnight. Journaling is a tool for you to practice showing up for yourself. How did I not mention this? By the way, I'm speaking a lot about journaling today because I had a viewer request to give some advice on journaling. She personal messaged me, and I encourage the rest of you to please personal message me or comment to me or text me if you have anything that you want me to talk about. That really makes me happy and brings me a lot of joy, and I'm happy to contribute if you have things you're specifically interested in. So, back to journaling. Journaling is a tool for practicing showing up for yourself. Different types of journaling, depending on where you are in your journaling journey. And this is all based on my own experience. These notes I'm reading are my own notes, by the way. By the way, I'm getting eaten by ants just a little bit as I speak, so sorry about that. Okay. These notes are my own, and I'm just using them to keep me on track. I wrote them specifically for this video in preparation for this message. So, depending on where you are in your journaling journey, there are different types of journaling for you, and I want to cover some here. One of them is popsicle stick method. Okay, so I learned this in my rehab. They had something like this, and I took the practice home with me so I could continue it after I left rehab. So basically, there's like 12 popsicle sticks in here. And I just made this on my own. I just went to Hobby Lobby and I got a jar and I got some popsicle sticks and a Sharpie. And then I randomly bought some material and I cut it and glued it in there so I couldn't see inside. And so it'd make it more cute looking. And the different words on the popsicle sticks are willingness, honesty, service, hope, brotherly love, spiritual awareness, humility, self-discipline, faith, courage, perseverance, integrity. Okay, so word of the day is what this is called. Popsicle stick method, word of the day. So you basically, this would be if you're wanting to try doing like a morning journaling. It's just the beginning. It's a beginner's practice. Okay, do this, and then what word do you have for us today, Great Spirit, higher power, universe? Brotherly love. Oh my gosh, this has literally been popping out to me like 3 times today, so that is apparently notable. Brotherly love. So then what you're supposed to do is have a dictionary. You could use your phone. We didn't have phones in rehab, so we had to use real dictionaries. You have a dictionary and you look up the word. It's optional. And then you can write down in your notebook, what does this word mean, like for real, for real. If it's 2 words, you might look up 2 words. I don't know. You come up with a great description of how you want to see the word for today. And then at the end, so that's your AM piece. At the end of the day, you revisit your journal, your paper, whatever. And you say, how did I use this word today? there's like 5 bullets. The second bullet is 3 things I like about myself, and then 3 things I'm grateful for, and then highlight of the day, and then a rating 1 through 10. And just off the top of my head, brotherly